Have you ever paused to consider the weight a single glance can carry, the silent power held in a captivating visage? Welcome, dear listeners, to the Chronicles of Eldoria, where we delve into the heart-wrenching saga of Prince Absalom, son of King David, a man whose breathtaking beauty became both his greatest blessing and his ultimate undoing. Imagine a figure so flawlessly sculpted, so divinely touched by the hand of aesthetics, that his very presence could halt conversations and inspire whispered praises. Yet, beneath this radiant exterior simmered an ambition as restless as the tides, an unyielding desire that would ultimately lead to treachery, rebellion, and a tragedy that would echo through the ages. Absalom's tale transcends mere physical appeal. It serves as a potent reminder of the perils inherent in unchecked aspiration and the deceptive allure of misplaced priorities. His life stands as a testament to the enduring truth that true greatness emanates from within, a lesson profoundly relevant even in our own era, where image and influence often overshadow the quiet strength of character and virtue. As we unravel the intricate tapestry of Absalom's life, you will witness a narrative interwoven with love and betrayal, ambition and sacrifice, and the devastating consequences of a kingdom divided against itself. This is more than just a historical account. It holds timeless wisdom that can illuminate our own paths. Allow me to introduce you to Absalom, Prince of Eldoria, whose stunning beauty was but a prelude to the dramatic and ultimately tragic symphony of his existence. Picture him now, a young man blessed with features so perfect they seemed almost otherworldly. From the finely sculpted lines of his jaw to the piercing intensity of his gaze, from the silken cascade of his raven hair that shimmered like a moonlit waterfall to the effortless grace of his movements, Absalom was a vision. It was said that when his hair was trimmed annually, a ritual observed with a mixture of awe and practicality, the sheer volume and weight of it were astonishing, a tangible symbol of his exceptional allure. But Absalom's striking looks were merely the gilded surface of a far more complex and volatile narrative, a story brimming with intrigue and profound heartbreak. He was the son of King David, a ruler revered for his wisdom and his long, prosperous reign. Yet Absalom's path would diverge sharply from his father's legacy of justice and stability. As the dawn painted the spires of Eldoria's capital city, Eridor, in hues of gold and crimson, the kingdom thrived under David's steady hand. For decades, David had guided Eldoria through trials and triumphs, earning the deep respect and affection of his people. The land flourished, trade routes bustled, and the arts and sciences experienced a renaissance. Yet, even in this golden age, shadows lurked within the royal household. Whispers of past grievances and unspoken resentments coiled beneath the veneer of courtly decorum. Amidst this backdrop of outward prosperity and hidden tensions, Prince Absalom matured. Born in the majestic city of Eridor and raised within the opulent walls of the royal citadel, the young prince was immersed in the intricate dance of power from his very first breath. He witnessed the grandeur of the kingdom, the elaborate ceremonies, and the deference shown to his father. But he also observed the subtle power plays, the hushed conversations in dimly lit corridors, and the simmering ambitions that pulsed beneath the surface of court life. Absalom was a keen observer, absorbing the lessons of political maneuvering, the seductive influence of appearance, and the intoxicating allure of charisma. He saw his father, the aging King David, beloved by his subjects, yet burdened by the responsibilities of his crown and the ever-present weight of maintaining unity within a diverse kingdom. Absalom also saw his elder brother, Prince Adriel, the heir apparent, a man of quiet strength and thoughtful deliberation, whose very presence seemed to underscore Absalom's own perceived lack of serious purpose in the eyes of some within the court. Seeds of both admiration and envy, of ambition and a burgeoning sense of entitlement began to take root in Absalom's heart. While Eldoria basked in an era of peace and plenty, a subtle storm was gathering within the heart of its most beautiful prince, a storm that threatened to shatter the kingdom's tranquility. This was the stage set for a tale of love and loss, of beauty and betrayal, a tragedy that would be recounted for generations, a stark reminder that even in times of greatest glory, the human heart remains a battleground between virtue and unchecked desire. King David, a ruler chosen not by divine decree as in some ancient tales, but by his own proven wisdom and valor in a time of crisis, was a man of compelling contradictions. A seasoned warrior in his youth, he had mellowed into a thoughtful statesman, a patron of the arts, and a just arbiter of disputes. His long reign was marked by relative peace and prosperity, yet the complexities of his own family life often proved more challenging than matters of state. His two wives, Elara and Mira, bore him several sons, each carrying the weight of royal lineage and the subtle pressures of succession. Among them, Absalom, son of Mira, stood out like a radiant jewel. He had inherited his mother's striking features and his father's natural charm, amplified to an almost mesmerizing degree. From a young age, Absalom turned heads and captured hearts wherever he went. His raven hair, often adorned with intricate braids interwoven with threads of silver and gold, was legendary throughout Eldoria, a symbol of his captivating presence. His regal bearing and effortless charisma led many to see him as the very embodiment of princely perfection. But Absalom was not the eldest. That honor belonged to Adriel, David's son by his first wife Elara. Adriel possessed a quiet dignity and a keen intellect, qualities that endeared him to the counselors and those who valued stability. The existence of his elder brother, a man seemingly destined for the throne by birthright and temperament, cast a subtle shadow over Absalom's own aspirations. Undercurrents of rivalry, though often unspoken, existed within the royal family, fueled by the natural ambitions of royal offspring and the quiet hopes of various factions within the court who might favor one prince over the other. Absalom, with his sharp intellect and keen awareness of social dynamics, observed these subtle power plays, learning the intricate dance of courtly politics and the art of cultivating favor. His younger sister, Tamar, possessed a gentle spirit and a keen artistic sensibility, providing Absalom with one of the few truly unconditional bonds in a world often driven by self-interest. Tamar's beauty was also remarkable, though it was often overshadowed by the dazzling presence of her elder brother. Absalom's love for Tamar was deep and protective, a genuine connection in a palace where relationships were often transactional. As Absalom matured, his popularity among the common people soared. His natural charm and breathtaking appearance made him a beloved figure throughout Eldoria. He possessed an innate ability to connect with individuals from all walks of life, making each person feel seen and valued in his presence. King David, watching his son's burgeoning influence from the vantage point of the throne, felt a complex mixture of pride and apprehension. He recognized in Absalom echoes of his own youthful vigor and charisma, the very qualities that had once propelled him to leadership. But he also sensed a certain restlessness, a subtle undercurrent of ambition that troubled him. Whispers reached the king's ears, tales of Absalom's almost theatrical displays of generosity, his carefully cultivated relationships with influential nobles who felt overlooked by the current administration, and his subtle criticisms of the established order, couched in terms of a desire for a more glorious Eldoria. Was Absalom merely a passionate young prince eager to make his mark, or was he a storm gathering on the horizon? Meanwhile, rumors, like tendrils of ivy, spread through the palace and the bustling marketplaces of Eridor. Absalom, the beautiful prince, the darling of the people. Absalom, the ambitious schemer, whose stunning exterior concealed a heart growing ever more fixated on the glittering prize of the throne. A tragedy of royal proportions was brewing, a tale of sibling rivalry, veiled resentment, and beauty that would prove to be both a captivating gift and a devastating curse. Absalom's beauty was indeed a double-edged sword. On one hand, it effortlessly won him the admiration of the populace, Young and old, rich and poor alike, were drawn to his radiant presence. When he spoke, crowds listened with rapt attention. When he made a request, it was often met with eager compliance. Absalom's striking appearance seemed to many a tangible sign of Eldoria's prosperity, a reflection of the kingdom's golden age. Yet, this very beauty fueled a growing vanity within him, amplifying his already considerable ambitions. Absalom began to see himself as more than just another prince. He became convinced that he, with his exceptional allure and natural charisma, was the only one truly fit to inherit David's crown. After all, did he not embody the very image of royalty? Shouldn't someone as majestic as he was be the one to guide Eldoria to even greater heights? Within the palace walls, Absalom's beauty stirred not only admiration but also jealousy and envy. Prince Adriel, though outwardly reserved, could not entirely ignore the growing adoration his younger brother commanded. Some of David's senior advisors, men who valued wisdom and experience over youthful charm, harbored a quiet distrust of Absalom, perceiving him as a prince more preoccupied with his image than with the serious responsibilities of governance. As time passed, Absalom's beauty became renowned throughout Eldoria and even in neighboring kingdoms. Foreign dignitaries, visiting Eridor on matters of diplomacy, returned to their courts with tales of a prince whose allure rivaled the legendary figures of old. Young women dreamed of capturing his attention, and young men sought to emulate his effortless grace and captivating presence. But beneath the surface of charm and good looks, a growing darkness began to take root in Absalom's heart. What should have been a blessing was slowly transforming into a gilded cage. He yearned to be valued for more than his appearance, yet he also recognized and skillfully exploited the immense influence his looks provided. One day, in the solitude of his private chambers, overlooking the sprawling cityscape of Eridor, Absalom made a silent vow. He promised himself that he would prove his worth, that he would show everyone he was more than just a handsome face. He would become king of Eldoria, no matter the cost. Little did he realize that this fateful promise would set him on a perilous path toward both fleeting glory and ultimate destruction. A harsh lesson in the enduring truth that true beauty comes from within, and even the most captivating of individuals can fall into the deepest shadows. The beginning of Absalom's downward spiral, the catalyst that would ignite his ambition into a destructive flame, involved his elder brother, Adriel. Adriel, as the heir apparent, held a position of considerable influence, and with that influence came responsibilities, some of which he wielded with a severity that bordered on harshness. Adriel was a man of principle, unwavering in his adherence to the laws of Eldoria, and he often clashed with Absalom's more lenient and popularity-driven approach to matters of justice and governance within their respective spheres of influence. While Absalom charmed the populace with his easygoing nature and promises of a brighter future, Adriel focused on the meticulous administration of the kingdom, sometimes appearing cold and distant in comparison. One fateful incident, involving a dispute over land rights between a respected elder and a wealthy merchant with connections to Adriel's inner circle, became a point of bitter contention. The elder, a man known for his integrity and service to the community, felt unjustly treated, and his pleas for intervention to Adriel went unanswered, seemingly lost in the labyrinthine processes of the royal court. When the elder in desperation approached Absalom, the prince listened with an empathetic ear, his handsome face etched with concern. Absalom, ever mindful of public opinion and sensing an opportunity to contrast his own compassionate nature with Adriel's perceived indifference, publicly voiced his disapproval of the situation, albeit subtly. He spoke of the need for fairness and the importance of the crown protecting the vulnerable, his words carefully crafted to resonate with the common people who often felt overlooked by the intricacies of the legal system. Adriel, upon hearing of Absalom's public pronouncements, was incensed. He saw it as a blatant undermining of his authority and a dangerous appeal to populist sentiment. A heated exchange ensued between the two brothers in the private chambers of King David. Adriel accused Absalom of seeking to sow discord and of prioritizing popularity over justice, while Absalom countered by accusing Adriel of being out of touch with the needs of the people and beholden to the interests of the powerful elite. King David, weary from the burdens of his reign and ever hopeful for harmony within his family, attempted to mediate, urging both his sons to act with wisdom and restraint. However, the seeds of resentment had been sown, and the chasm between the two brothers began to widen. This incident, though seemingly minor, served as a turning point for Absalom. It solidified his belief that Adriel was an obstacle to the kind of Eldoria he envisioned, one where his own charisma and connection with the people would be the guiding force. The perceived injustice against the elder, whether real or amplified by Absalom's political maneuvering, became a rallying cry for those who felt marginalized or disillusioned with Adriel's more traditional approach. For 2 years following this incident, a cold war simmered between the two princes. Absalom, while outwardly maintaining a semblance of familial harmony, subtly cultivated his own network of loyalists. He spent considerable time outside the formal confines of the court, traveling throughout Eldoria, making public appearances at local festivals and gatherings. His striking beauty and charismatic presence never failed to captivate the crowds. He listened attentively to their grievances, offered words of encouragement, and subtly hinted at the changes he would bring were he in a position of greater authority. He was a master of charm, remembering names, inquiring about families, and dispensing generous gifts, often funded by his own considerable wealth and the discreet contributions of sympathetic nobles. Slowly but surely, Absalom was building a powerful base of popular support, carefully positioning himself as the people's champion in contrast to the perceived aloofness of his elder brother. King David, though increasingly concerned by the subtle rivalry between his sons, remained hesitant to intervene decisively. He loved both Adriel and Absalom deeply and clung to the hope that their differences could be reconciled. He saw Adriel's strengths in administration and his commitment to the rule of law, and he also recognized Absalom's unique ability to connect with the hearts of the people. Perhaps, David reasoned, their contrasting qualities could one day complement each other, ensuring a balanced and prosperous future for Eldoria. He attempted on several occasions to bring his sons together, organizing formal dinners and private conversations, hoping to foster understanding and bridge the growing divide. However, Absalom, with his carefully veiled ambition, always managed to present a facade of respect and filial piety, while subtly continuing to advance his own agenda. During this period, a trusted advisor to King David, a wise and seasoned statesman named Elkanah, grew increasingly wary of Absalom's actions. Elkanah had served David for many years and possessed a keen understanding of the intricacies of courtly politics and the subtle signs of brewing unrest. He observed Absalom's carefully orchestrated public appearances, the almost theatrical manner of his generosity, and the hushed conversations he held with disgruntled nobles and ambitious military officers. Elkanah voiced his concerns to King David, warning him of the potential danger lurking beneath Absalom's charming exterior. He spoke of the seductive nature of power and the ease with which ambition could corrupt even the most outwardly appealing individuals. However, David, blinded by his love for his son and perhaps unwilling to confront the possibility of such treachery within his own family, gently dismissed Elkanah's warnings, attributing Absalom's actions to youthful enthusiasm and a desire to be loved by his people. As the years passed, Absalom's beauty and charisma only intensified, further solidifying his popularity. Stories of his captivating presence spread throughout Eldoria, reaching even the most remote villages. He became a symbol of youthful vigor and a perceived alternative to the aging king and the more austere Adriel. Yet, beneath this captivating facade, a cold calculation was taking root. Absalom's desire for the throne was no longer a vague ambition. It had become an all-consuming obsession. He believed, with an unwavering conviction, that he was the rightful heir to Eldoria, that his connection with the people and his undeniable charisma made him a far more suitable ruler than his more reserved elder brother. The seeds of discontent, initially sown by the incident with the elder, had now blossomed into a full-fledged plan, a carefully conceived strategy to usurp the throne from his own father and brother. Absalom was no longer content to wait for his turn. He was determined to seize his destiny, believing that the beauty and charm that had won him the hearts of the people would also pave his way to the crown, regardless of the bonds of family or the established order of the kingdom. Absalom's carefully laid plans began to unfold, with a calculated act of manipulation targeting one of King David's most trusted officials, a respected judge known for his impartiality and wisdom, named Azariah. Azariah had served the crown with unwavering loyalty for decades, and his pronouncements carried significant weight throughout Eldoria. Absalom recognized that gaining Azariah's tacit approval, or at least neutralizing his potential opposition, would be a crucial step in legitimizing his own aspirations in the eyes of the nobility and the populace. Absalom orchestrated a seemingly chance encounter with Azariah during a royal procession. Riding on a magnificent white stallion, his raven hair flowing in the breeze, Absalom dismounted as Azariah's carriage approached, feigning a moment of spontaneous respect for the elder statesman. He engaged Azariah in conversation, his voice filled with humility and feigned admiration for the judge's long and distinguished service. Absalom spoke eloquently of the need for justice and fairness in the kingdom, subtly alluding to perceived shortcomings in the current administration without directly criticizing his father or brother. He painted a vision of Eldoria, where the voices of all citizens, regardless of their status, would be heard and their grievances addressed promptly and equitably. Azariah, a man dedicated to these very principles, was subtly flattered by the young prince's attentiveness and seemingly shared ideals. Over the following months, Absalom cultivated this relationship with Azariah, seeking his counsel on various matters, real and contrived. He presented himself as a young prince, eager to learn and dedicated to the welfare of Eldoria. He would often visit Azariah in his chambers, engaging in lengthy discussions on matters of law and governance, carefully steering the conversation towards his own vision for the kingdom's future. Absalom was a skilled orator, his words imbued with a persuasive charm that was difficult to resist. He never openly declared his ambition for the throne, but he skillfully planted seeds of doubt about Adriel's leadership qualities and subtly highlighted his own perceived strengths, his popularity, his connection with the people, and his vision for a more vibrant and just Eldoria. Azariah, though a man of discerning judgment, found himself increasingly drawn to Absalom's charismatic presence and seemingly genuine concern for the kingdom. He began to see in Absalom a potential for greatness, a leader who could perhaps connect with the populace in a way that the more reserved Adriel could not. While subtly swaying Azariah, Absalom simultaneously intensified his efforts to win the favor of the common people. He established a practice of holding informal gatherings outside the city gates, where he would listen to the complaints and concerns of ordinary citizens. He would often intervene in minor disputes, offering solutions and dispensing aid with a seemingly boundless generosity. These actions, carefully orchestrated and widely publicized by his growing network of supporters, further enhanced his image as a compassionate and approachable prince, deeply invested in the well-being of his subjects. In contrast, Adriel, focused on the day-to-day administration of the kingdom and adhering to the more formal protocols of the court, appeared increasingly distant and inaccessible to the common people. King David, despite Elkanah's continued warnings, remained largely unaware of the extent of Absalom's machinations. He saw his younger son's popularity as a positive thing, a sign of the enduring affection of the people for the royal family. He still hoped for a reconciliation between his sons and believed that Absalom's charm could be a valuable asset to the kingdom in the future, perhaps complementing Adriel's more pragmatic approach. David's own weariness and his desire for peace within his family blinded him to the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. 4 years passed in this manner, years of carefully calculated charm, subtle manipulation, and the gradual erosion of Adriel's perceived standing among both the nobility and the common people. Absalom had cultivated a powerful faction of supporters, including disgruntled nobles who felt overlooked by David's administration, ambitious military officers drawn to Absalom's charismatic leadership, and influential merchants who saw in him a prince more amenable to their interests. The stage was now set for Absalom to make his move. Sensing that the time was ripe, Absalom approached King David with a seemingly innocent request. He expressed a desire to travel to Hebron, an ancient city with deep historical significance in Eldoria, claiming that he had made a sacred vow some years prior and wished to fulfill it with a public ceremony. Hebron held symbolic importance, being the city where David himself had first been proclaimed king. Absalom's choice of Hebron was no accident. It was a strategic move designed to evoke historical parallels and subtly suggest his own claim to the throne. King David, still trusting his son and perhaps seeing this as an opportunity for Absalom to demonstrate his piety and reconnect with the traditions of Eldoria, readily granted his permission. He blessed Absalom's journey, unaware of the true intentions hidden beneath the guise of religious devotion. As soon as Absalom arrived in Hebron, he put his long-prepared plan into action. He gathered his most trusted supporters and, under the pretense of the vow fulfillment ceremony, orchestrated a public declaration of his own kingship. Messengers were dispatched throughout Eldoria, carrying the news and urging people to join Absalom in Hebron. The message was simple but effective. Absalom, the beloved prince, was claiming his rightful place as the ruler of Eldoria, promising a new era of justice and prosperity for all. The rebellion spread rapidly, like wildfire across dry plains. People from all corners of Eldoria flocked to Hebron, drawn by Absalom's charisma, his promises of a better future, and the carefully cultivated image of him as the true champion of the people. The years of subtle campaigning and the skillful manipulation of public sentiment had paid off. Absalom's beauty and charm, initially a personal attribute, had been weaponized into a potent political force. In Eridor, the news of Absalom's proclamation hit King David like a physical blow. The realization of his son's betrayal, the depth of the deception, and the imminent threat of civil war sent shockwaves through the royal court. David, his heart heavy with sorrow and a profound sense of loss, began to make preparations to leave the capital. He knew that Eridor would likely fall quickly to Absalom's forces, and he was determined to avoid a bloody conflict within the city walls. As David and his loyal followers prepared to depart, Absalom, at the head of his growing rebel army, began his march towards Eridor. His long, flowing hair, a visible banner of his ambition, the very beauty that had once captivated the kingdom, now a symbol of its impending division. Civil war loomed, pitting father against son, loyalty against ambition, and the deceptive allure of outward appearance against the enduring strength of a just and established reign. As King David and his loyalists retreated from Eridor, their departure was marked by a palpable sense of grief and uncertainty. David, the aging warrior king, his face etched with sorrow, issued strict orders to his commanders. Spare the life of Absalom. His heart, torn between his duty to the kingdom and his love for his rebellious son, yearned for reconciliation, a desperate hope that still flickered amidst the encroaching darkness of civil war. Absalom, buoyed by his initial success and the swelling ranks of his followers, advanced towards Eridor with a triumphant air. Riding his magnificent stallion, his legendary hair flowing behind him like a dark banner, he exuded an aura of confidence and invincibility. His beauty, once a source of admiration, had now morphed into a symbol of his perceived destiny, a visual affirmation of his claim to the throne. He saw himself not as a usurper, but as the rightful ruler of Eldoria, destined to usher in a new era of glory and justice. The cheers of his supporters echoed in his ears, intoxicating him with the intoxicating nectar of perceived power. The inevitable clash between father and son unfolded on the plains of Edar, a strategic location known for its open terrain suitable for large-scale battle. David's forces, though smaller in number, were composed of seasoned veterans, fiercely loyal to their king and battle-hardened by years of service. They were led by experienced commanders who understood the art of warfare and the importance of discipline. Absalom's army, while large and enthusiastic, was largely comprised of hastily assembled recruits, their loyalty fueled more by Absalom's charisma and promises than by military prowess. The battle commenced with a deafening roar. Swords clashed against shields, arrows rained down like deadly hail, and the cries of the wounded filled the air. Absalom, ever the charismatic figure, rode prominently through the ranks of his soldiers, his presence inspiring a surge of initial fervor. His beauty seemed almost otherworldly amidst the chaos of battle, a radiant figure amidst the grime and bloodshed. Some of David's soldiers, recalling their prince's once beloved image, hesitated to strike him, as if raising a hand against such beauty was a sacrilege. However, the experience and strategic acumen of David's commanders soon began to turn the tide of the battle. Their disciplined formations and tactical maneuvers gradually outmatched the more disorganized and impetuous attacks of Absalom's forces. Slowly but surely, the rebels were pushed back, their initial momentum faltering against the steadfast resistance of the royal army. As the battle raged, a fierce contingent of David's elite guard managed to breach Absalom's inner circle, their sights set on ending the rebellion by capturing or eliminating its leader. Absalom, witnessing the faltering of his lines and the relentless advance of the royal forces, realized that the tide had turned against him. Panic began to gnaw at the edges of his confidence. In a desperate attempt to escape the unfolding catastrophe, he spurred his stallion and fled the battlefield, his once proud bearing now replaced by a frantic urgency. As Absalom rode through the dense forest bordering the plains of Edar, fate, or perhaps a divine intervention reflecting the tragic consequences of his pride, intervened. His famously long and thick hair, the very symbol of his vaunted beauty, became entangled in the low-hanging branches of a massive oak tree. His stallion, continuing its panicked flight, galloped out from under him, leaving Absalom suspended in mid-air, trapped and helpless by the very attribute that had once been his greatest vanity and source of power. It was there, dangling precariously between earth and sky, that Absalom was discovered by Joab, one of King David's most ruthless and unwavering generals. Joab, a man known for his battlefield pragmatism and unwavering loyalty to David, had disregarded the king's explicit command to spare Absalom's life. Seeing the rebel leader vulnerable and within his grasp, Joab recognized a swift and decisive end to the rebellion. Without hesitation, and driven by his commitment to David and the stability of Eldoria, Joab took 3 javelins and thrust them into Absalom's heart, ending the life of the once beautiful prince. Word of Absalom's death spread quickly through the battlefield, and with their leader gone, the rebel forces collapsed into disarray. The battle was over, and David's victory was complete. But it was a victory shrouded in the deepest sorrow. When the news of Absalom's demise reached King David, who had been anxiously awaiting the outcome of the battle away from the immediate conflict, his grief was profound and inconsolable. A heart-wrenching cry echoed through the royal camp, "My son, Absalom, my son! Would God I had died for thee, O Absalom, my son, my son!" The victory celebrations were silenced by the king's overwhelming sorrow, a stark reminder of the devastating personal cost of the civil war. Absalom's body was taken down from the oak tree and, in accordance with the grim realities of war, was thrown into a deep pit in the forest. A large mound of stones was piled over him, a silent and somber monument to the tragic fate of a man whose outward beauty had masked a heart consumed by unchecked ambition. King David, the victorious but broken-hearted ruler, returned to Eridor, a changed man. The vibrancy that had once characterized his reign was now overshadowed by a deep and abiding grief. The palace, once filled with music and laughter, echoed with a heavy silence, punctuated only by hushed whispers and the king's quiet sobs. In the days and weeks that followed, Eldoria grappled with the aftermath of the rebellion. Many who had been swayed by Absalom's charm and promises now felt a deep sense of shame and regret, realizing they had been captivated by appearances and had ignored the underlying ambition that had driven him. Families were divided, friendships fractured, and the kingdom bore the scars of internal conflict. King David, though consumed by his personal loss, eventually turned his attention to the arduous task of healing his fractured kingdom. He decreed a period of national mourning, a time for reflection and remembrance, not just for Absalom, but for the loss of innocence and the fragility of peace. During this time, David poured his raw emotions into songs and laments, expressions of grief and repentance that resonated deeply with his people. The story of Absalom became a cautionary tale, whispered in hushed tones throughout Eldoria. Fathers warned their sons about the dangers of pride and the deceptive nature of outward appearances. The stone mound in the forest of Edar served as a stark reminder that even the most handsome and charismatic individuals could fall prey to their own unchecked desires. Years passed, and though the wounds of the rebellion slowly began to heal, the lessons learned from Absalom's tragic downfall endured. King David, in his old age, imparted this hard-earned wisdom to his successor Solomon. "Remember, my son," he would say, his voice heavy with the weight of experience. "True strength lies not in outward appearance or popular acclaim, but in the integrity of one's heart and unwavering commitment to justice and righteousness." Absalom was beautiful to behold, but his ambition consumed him. Let his fate be a constant reminder that true beauty dwells within. Even today, the tale of Absalom echoes through the ages, a timeless reminder that the allure of outward charm and the pursuit of power without virtue can lead to devastating consequences. It urges us to look beyond the surface and to cultivate the inner qualities of character, wisdom, and humility, for these are the true measures of a person's worth and the enduring foundations of a just and prosperous society. The tragic story of Prince Absalom serves as a poignant testament to the enduring truth that it is not the beauty we possess, but the choices we make that ultimately define our legacy.